looked at Lynda Weatherman's bio. Holy moly, it's like a book. She has accomplished so much. We all, you know, you kind of think you know her, but you kind of don't. She has been with them since 1994, and she administers all the operations, provides the strategic direction for the EDC. She's responsible for a $2 million budget. And think of Brevard County, she's, you know, it's 1,557 square miles. There's a lot to have to deal with in a very long county. And I thought one of a big highlight was Lynda in 2007 being honored with the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal, the highest honor NASA awards to both government and non-government employees. That's really impressive. Lynda has obviously this extensive bio, but we all know her for this excellent job she does in her position, and we are just so excited to have her here giving an update and what's happening in Brevard County and the EDC initiatives, and hopefully CPT talk a little bit. Okay, perfect. So I'll get her PowerPoint up, and I invite Lynda Weatherman up.
Somebody going to turn that for me?
Yeah, I can do that for you, absolutely.
Tell a story.
There we go, yeah, I know it's pretty early.
I'm going to talk today a number of things. This is a 15-minute presentation, but I'm really hitting a lot of things shortly, but I think it's important. First of all, I really appreciate speaking to the Palm Bay Chamber. I always feel nice homecoming. It's, you know, I talk to a lot of different groups, and some groups don't understand economic development. Some people, they're suspect to it because they've been reading different things and stuff like that. But when I come to this group, I'm like, oh, actually, I have a smile on my face because it's like homecoming. You get it, you understand. Palm Bay as a city's always been aggressive in economic development. Always knew what it took to get there, and I've always been so pleased when I work with the commissioner from the Palm Bay area and also the city council too. So I'm going to talk about economic development, what the EDC is a little bit. A couple things on the economy. Only I'm looking at the Brevard County economy. I didn't want to get into the city. I could do that down the road because I want you to see some trends that are taking place. Some of this you might have seen already, a little bit of an ROI we've done, and go into some programs. And then I want to end just a couple of minutes on some new programs we have, including the CPT and why we're doing that. You remember last time I spoke, you remember that, might not, but it was solely about the Certified Production Technician Program. And I got into the why we're doing what we're doing, showing national trends and local trends. This one, I won't go into why, I'll talk about a little bit more of the other programs we're doing. Next. This is the EDC. We're not unusual in our design. I think we're unusual in our application to economic development. We're tacticians, and tactics beat strategy every time in economic development. And by that I mean when you see a strategy, although we do have a strategic plan, that's the what, you know, that's the here's where we want to get to. And they all are very nice, but if I've always said about strategic plans, it's good to have a goal, not too desirable because you want to have a doable goal. By that I mean be too lofty in what you're trying to get because you need to get there. But they basically, at the end of the day, every community wants the same thing. Good jobs, a balanced portfolio of job categories from semi-skilled to high-skilled, high wages, good capital investment. Show me a strategic plan and economic development doesn't want that. It's how you get there that sets you apart. We're very much tacticians, short term. So I tell my staff, tell me on Monday, what phone call do I have to make? What call do I need to make? What email do I need to send? What thing do I have to read? What cage do I have to rattle for us to get to the 2,500 jobs that we made a commitment to create? We're governed by a board of directors, very much like Chamber of Commerce. We have councils. Our funding comes from government contract services as well as private sector membership too. Next thing, what is economic development? In the past, I've gone into the theoretical reason why. We go for industry relocation, but basically a job is created 3 ways in the economy. If you heard my speeches, a company starts up, a company expands, or a company relocates. The EDC plays a role in all of those, in addition to what you'll see later on is policy development, or what I call more organic programs of work that we're doing, the non-sexy stuff. Very sexy to have a company, Northrop Grumman isn't here. Remember last time I was here? Had all the, you know, it had every camera out there, and I was giving this boring presentation, because we literally thought, and I found out later, is there press in here? Okay, I just want to say sure. Do you know, I found out later when I was making that presentation, they were so nervous, they must think we're from Hooterville or something, that were so nervous that they thought I was gonna leak it. Well, everybody knew what it was anyway, but the governor's office, staff, and the $50 haircut, $500 muckety-muck consultants were in New York watching this at the same time we were giving this. I'm glad I didn't know that. So, anyway, so that's what we do. I can go into what we do, but okay, let's look at the economy really quick. I'm gonna go quick and I'm gonna finish this in a few minutes.
No, you're good.
If I'm okay, can I go to 35 after? Is that all right?
Oh, you have lots of time. We're
Okay,
early
good.
today.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you so much. Let's look at the unemployment rate. Now, you've seen these slides that we put together in the past. What is the shading? Does anybody remember what the shading represents in the back?
Recession.
The recession. So that gives you an idea of putting the statistics over the recession. And when people talk about Brevard County, but even the nation, because it's very similar to the nation's indicators, when they talk about it being the deepest, longest recession in the history of this country, they were right. Look at that. I don't think we will ever see unemployment jump that quickly in such a short time going. We had at one time 11.8% unemployment rate, and within a few years, it's now 5.4%. The state is 5.1%, and the nation's 5.1%. So understand we're a 0.2% difference. How many remember what perfect unemployment is? If you remember your high school economics. 4%. Of course, I always say that unless you're in the 4%, it's not very perfect. That's why I understand that, so I don't mean to be petulant about the 4%. But look how close we are. And that in itself creates some inherent problems, too, and we'll talk about that later. But this is where we are. I also dare you, and I didn't bring these slides, I'll bring them maybe next time. I don't know, look how quick it took us to fall, and we just fall drastically in the unemployment number going down. Look how quick, and I'll show you some reasons that I think it is. The next one is taxable sales. Basically, look at the recession, and what this tells you is if you look in 2000, you remember the go-go days of the housing market, really, and that's where I talked about before, I think we kind of priced ourselves out of the market because you didn't see sales. Remember the line, the activity, the index, which is apples to apples comparison year over year. It's not a cumulative number with inflation taking a factor, and the taxable sales is the line. But really, if it wasn't until you see the recession that you didn't see sales going in houses until the prices started to fall. We really had priced ourselves out of the market. It was a hyperinflation economy, and like, no, we're not going to sell, And until you see right before the recession, when you see the curve going down, the macro curve, not the up and down, it's erratic from month to month, and then you see it taking place. Now look what's happening in January 16. This is the latest data. Go back one more. Okay, look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you some numbers in just a minute, but I predict that number will go even higher. Because here's what happens. When people buy homes, and I didn't know this until I read an article years ago. You know one of the things they do, most likely after they buy a home? Well, they buy furniture, and that makes sense, because you're like, ooh, that coffee table, it looked pretty in the old apartment. Yeah, you certainly buy furniture, but what's the other major purchase people do? And it's almost a psychological thing. Exactly. Cars. There's a high percentage of after people buy houses, they buy a car. I don't know, economics is a soft science, it's not a hard science. Probably you go in there like, ugh, God, that car, again, it's like the coffee table. So what's going to happen if you got this much going on in sales, and it doesn't matter if it's a new home or just a new purchase of a home. So what do you think is going to happen when you see that phenomenon taking place? And then I'm going to show you some economic numbers. So what I'm saying is that I predict you'll see that number increase. I haven't had enough time to give you a number on it yet. Let's look at the next slide real quick. I'm going a little long on this. Housing sales, again, that's going to go up. We'll take the next one. Because housing sales is the last one. You'll see the numbers of sales tax go up. Space Coast highlights, just want to let you know, I showed you a little bit of data. That is past looking. It helps you get a handle on the economy, a little bit about your business. If you want any of this data, we have it. We're one of the few EDCs that we take the priority of having a researcher on staff, and I think it's important. That's how I started my career, because it used to be in the old days that competing for jobs was a little bit more quality of life issues, maybe some cost of living. Now you really need to know your data. You've got to have your competitive analysis. You've got to do your comparison. As I tell my staff who does research, we beat the data till it confesses. And or into submission. In other words, you got to know your numbers to be able to make the argument too. But you might need that, so please look at that. We do have it on our EDC data center. But now you want to look in the future. It is static and is looking in the past. So let's talk about what's happened in the last 5 years as it relates to companies relocating as they were worked by the EDC. I'm not saying this is all of the economy. I'm just telling you these are the companies that have the greatest economic impact on economy, are the industry companies, the high-tech companies, the ones we work with. There are many other companies that will relocate or expand, and the service companies here that start up. These will also create another phenomena too. So these are the companies. If you look in October 2010 to 2016, let's just look at the new jobs announced in the kind of companies, 8,626. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel very strongly when I was making the announcement and with the team, the state of Florida and everything, about OneWeb. I said this, and in many ways I'm a student of this profession more than anything. They will be writing books years from now about what happened in Brevard County. Because you can't get a community that in 26, 27, not only faced a recession, had one of the highest subprime markets in the nation, also had the major industries dropping 10,000 jobs, and that being the last flight, and we recovered within 5 years. I also challenge you to find other relocations like this taking place. You might find Plano, Texas getting Toyota. You might find there was today an announcement of a tire plant manufacturer, and I think it was 600 jobs. But that's been one or twosies, and lots of times one of these relocations in a career, if you're lucky. And look what we've done here. And there was a number of reasons. I can get into it, but we can talk about it a little bit later. You certainly know it. You're in the business, and that's amazing. Here's what it means. The next one. We did, wait a minute, I think they sent you the old slide. Yeah, I think you have is it the original slide they gave you?
We waited and she didn't get it to us.
Oh, it didn't get it to you?
Because I called her.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, then let me tell you really quick, because I added a couple more slides this morning.
Okay.
Basically, if you look at that, and it's just a number, I hate to just rattle off numbers because you'll do like this fellow right here. It was perfect timing, you know that. Numbers, he yawns and everything. Okay, that hurts. Let's have a warm meal and talk about ROIs. Anyway, but basically, direct economic impact is $1.29 billion. That's the direct economic impact of these projects we just announced in regards to direct economic impact. Think about it, $1.29 billion impact. And where do we spend our money on rollover dollars? 20% in housing. Okay. If you wonder why housing is going through the roof right now, if you wonder why D.R. Horton, all these housing companies are coming in Brevard County, in Palm Bay, in Viera, 27% of $1.29 billion. And that's just on the economic impact of the projects that we worked on. 15% transportation, that means cars, 11% on food, 9% on insurance, and 7% on healthcare. We are, I believe, very strongly in an economic renaissance, and we're just now taking place. What's happening, and I don't usually talk about South versus North Brevard, but I do want in this case. What's happening right now is the first wave is going to hit South Brevard. Buying patterns are going to change. Voting patterns, I think, are going to change. And it's all taking place because you couldn't have that many jobs paying $80,000 to $100,000 a year, not that far from here, in such a short amount of time. Just one location by North Project Magellan, 1,800 jobs. That's one. $100,000 a year. What about their spouses? What about the kids? Where are they going to live? It's going to be an economic tsunami in a good way. Usually hear the tsunami in a bad way. I heard a comedian once say the tsunami is so strong it sucked the T out of the alphabet. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. That was funny. And where's the second wave going to take place? Right outside the Space Center with Blue Origin and OneWeb. Ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you. Start spending today and spend 2 minutes every day cruising the internet. Find that something else. This is the Singapore in many ways, I believe, and I said this 22 years ago. I remember telling people, this place could be a Singapore. We don't want it to grow too fast, but what you want is you have these good jobs because Brevard County and Florida will grow. I have people say, oh, we don't want growth. I go, well, sorry. They invented the air conditioner in 1955. It came down here and nothing's going to stop it. Because every one of us here came that way, probably. Right? It's just the history of our country, too. Whether it's on a cigar boat, like my grandparents, or is coming as young servicemen in MacDill Air Force Base. So that's taking place. So what you want in economic development is, it's called economic development, not economic growth. You want to somehow control your destiny. There are people that are against economic development, and ladies and gentlemen, there is a war on economic development. Don't you think for 1 minute it's not taking place in this county? And somehow they either think we're magically these jobs are going to take place, or they don't want to do anything. So you have two choices. You try to get control of your economic destiny, especially when you had the bad tsunami taking place only 5 years ago, or you're dirty, poor, and vulnerable. There's your choices. And there are over 300 EDOs, over 5,000 EDOs in the continental U.S. chasing less than 300 relocations annually. And that number is a data number too. I think that 300 has gone down. This EDC is committed to do economic development, and I'll show you the next slide. Next. Okay. This is the non-sexy part of economic development. Because for me to just go and say, you know what we need to do? We need to bring company relocations. Like anything in life, like your business, it's not just one thing. It's like an engine. You got to constantly tune up your engine. And that's not a very good metaphor, but I'll come with it. So these are the programs that we have a commitment to, because how are jobs created? Relocation, expand, or start up. And this affects some of them. First one is the SNAP program. We started this right at the recession time when it first started, when the economy was going down. And you know what? Every elected official came up to me and said, gosh, this is, because remember how busy it was in commercial activity? And every one of them said, God, I wish there was something I could do. Because they're well-meaning, good, committed public servants. So we decided, well, now that things have slowed down, maybe it's the chance to go to our, as equal partners, not as Boris unilateral relationships that communities have done in the past. Other EDOs have tried this and never succeeded. It's let's go to our partner cities and say, look, now that things are slower, what can we do to speed up the process for permitting? Simple, nimble, accelerated permitting. We've got some awards for this. And here's the key. People go, what was your secret? Here's our secret. We went to them with respect. And we told the planners and the people that do all the checking and the clipboard and stuff, you are the first responders to economic development, and it was not done patronizing, and it certainly doesn't falsehood. Because all we need is when I come up and I say, hey, I want to start a pizza company here, and I'm from New York, and I want to come down, and that person in the front who checks off says, okay, whatever, I'll be back. There's an old saying in economic development, companies would relocate. I don't think this happens because economic development of science is far more sophisticated. This might have happened years and years ago. But what they would do is the person of the company, the owner of the company, would go to the coffee shop, and as the lady's giving them the coffee, say, tell me about this town. What do you think? Oh, they're terrible. They're like, okay, thank you. Because remember, company relocation is not a process of adding companies to the portfolio that we want to come in. Everybody wants these jobs. It's a process of elimination. When a company comes and visits us at the EDC, they got 5 cities on their mind, and at the end of the week, they want 2. So why am I not coming here? That's not how it works. That's the fun part. You made the requirements. That's why they're there to begin with. What is it I don't want to bring? And it could be anything. And the closer you get to relocation, at the end of the day, every city would work. What is it I don't want to do? And it could be something as simple as school systems, or the ABT and everything like that. So this is why I want programs, because when I talk to these companies, and here's what a lot of EDOs forget, this is the honeymoon. When you come, hey, we want you to relocate, it's really good, it's our data, yay. And then when they don't relocate, you're off chasing someone else. Every 6 months since the announcement, or sooner, since the announcement of Umbrier, I've drove down to Fort Lauderdale, okay? Because remember all those nice things I said? I'm going to darn make sure that they happen too, okay? And that's the hard part. In many ways, the company relocation, while it's competitive, it was the easy part, because now they're here. You know, it's like a doctor when their patient dies, and they can't complain, but a patient lives, and that's a problem. You'd almost rather lose the project so they relocate, and they're like, well, Weatherman told me all this stuff that we have going. I don't see any of that. So that's the hard part, too. So you better make sure that you're there. So, Made in Brevard campaign, that's a program that we did with the joint venture with the Chamber of Commerce, all Chambers of Commerce. I so appreciate the relationship I have with the Chambers of Commerce. Palm Bay, for sure, too. When I first got my job here, I don't know what the relationship was like. I don't know. Everything was weird. But and when I sat down with them and I said, we have work in economic development enough to go around for everybody. Everybody has a role in economic development. What we do is just measured in a different way. It's a different kind of economic development. Every day, you know something in economic development, as does the mayor. made in Brevard. So that's what we want to do, is we want to start recognizing what we're manufacturing here. And as a community who's astute enough to understand what's made in Brevard, you can talk to your neighbors and say, well, do you know that we're the only place in the nation that makes these little springs that go on those carts at Disney World? I mean, we go over and over. But that was the job of the chambers, to go out and find those companies that are manufacturing unique products. Because usually we don't know that, where they are and what they do. You know why? Because this isn't their market. It doesn't matter if they talk to somebody here, because their market is outside state of Florida, much less here. So if you don't see a lot of manufacturers here, that's why. Their focus is somewhere else. Where many people here, your market is sitting at the table with you, and that's the difference. But to have a company who's been here for 20 years, 25 years, and then paying taxes, and have somebody knock at the door and say, hey, I'm from the Palm Bay Chamber. We really appreciate your manufacturing business here. It's really important to us. I guarantee you when you leave, they'll be like, that was pretty cool. Here's the other thing, too. Everything's, I'm a hybrid between being very altruistic and very Philistine. Here's a Philistine reason behind it. Because if a company's looking to relocate, chances are they're going to talk to that manufacturer and say, tell me about this company. I mean, this county and this state and this city. Because I've been here, and you want to have a good relationship with them. That's made in Brevard. There are 500 to 800 manufacturing companies. This small, little, modest-sized EDC has no way it can talk to all of us. And that's where you have the involvement from the Chambers of Commerce. Go Contracts, the program we did. Only EDC, again, you'll see a lot of things that that no other EDC does. I say that's either we're very brilliant or stupidest organization on the earth, basically what we did. And that means because we're willing to try different things, and we're willing to hit the wall if we don't. This has been a massive success. Basically, we bought licenses, we negotiated down to we paid for them, we outreached to companies. It didn't matter if they were an EDC member or not, and they were able to secure a license to oversee every state, local, and national contract that came out and bid on it. This little program that we developed from scratch, that we bought this license group, over $30 million in sales collectively. And I think that's really cool, because we didn't know. We thought people weren't going to do it. They'll say Lynda made money. No, not made money. Lynda paid for this, and nothing came of it, because, but it didn't. We're very proud of it. Accelerate Brevard and technology docking, basically, company relocates, expands, and starts up. A lot of starts up happens in the entrepreneurial side of it. Technology docking, one of the things an EDC needs to do, I see I got 2 minutes, is that you need to be able to know your assets and leverage your assets. NASA, EDC, and KSC is a wonderful asset that I've always felt frustrated that we weren't able to leverage the technology that's out there and technology deployment opportunities for our local companies. We're the only EDC. In fact, we were the only EDC about 10 years ago, that had a Space Act agreement with NASA. We're the only EDC that has a contract with NASA headquarters to do technology deployment. Usually they go to the universities and schools, but they did it with us because you know what? We asked. I've been knocking on the door of these people. I've been waiting for people to retire. Because I walk in, I see the guy with the nanny, and I'm thinking, oh, he so doesn't want to deal with me. And I'm literally, I know who I'm thinking about, and I'm like, okay, I'll be gone about 6 months. At 6 months, here I am. I've talked to more people in middle management saying, hey, like Willie Loman, hey, we're the EDC, we can help you. You know who Willie Loman is? Okay, thanks. Definitely sales, it's me. Anyway, hey, we have technology, we want to help you with it. So we did that, that's probably why we got it. So my point is, it's not just corporate relocation. This is the unsexy, organic programs that you have to do. And ladies and gentlemen, you wouldn't know if I didn't do that, would you? You wouldn't know that. And I'm telling you, that's the stuff that needs to be done. That's what sets us apart. And then we also talk about masks. This is the Manufacturers Association that we've developed. We've always had a committee of our manufacturers since I've got the job here. We've done surveys of our manufacturers every year since 1995. I use that as a diagnostic tool. But what's important about that is it's helping us guide our CPT program, and that's the program that I talked about before. And I want to thank Sandy on her own, called me up and said, look, if I'm with Zonta, we really want to, I mean, we started this with no money. Money sometimes gets in the way, and I prefer not to have money. But when you do something and you don't have any money, that means you're really committed to it, and you're willing to go out there. And I've had a lot of things go on. We've been able to get state appropriations for this, a modest amount considering what we have to do. But you know how this survived with no money? It's because people wrote checks, $500, $1,000 a year, and I'm shameless when it comes to asking for money. I believe in it. But basically, what's that talking about doing is, if you remember the slide I showed you, 45% are at or near retirement manufacturing, and I just showed how we're going to explode in manufacturing. It's not any critique of Brevard County because it's reflective of this county. We've lost a generation in manufacturing. So what do we do to encourage people going into manufacturing, which is the highest paid of the industries, and get them trained properly? The mayor in the mayor's ball, this year, he announced at our board meeting, talked to us before, every year is the mayor's ball. The proceeds to the mayor's ball will be given to CPT students and Pastors Alliance, because we also found this as an interesting, and I feel in the deep of my heart, social tool too. If you get out, you don't know what to do, and you talk about having jobs that maybe aren't paying enough, well, this manufacturing will bring you in a good future. You could start packing boxes, and 3 years, 4 years now, you could be a CNC machinist making $85,000 a year. You can. That exists in manufacturing, and I believe in all my heart that can be done. And sometimes and the equivalent we'll use is like the Army. Everybody be all you can be, and getting people to want to go into the Army. You can still make that argument with manufacturing, and it's good for the country. This reshoring stuff, it's real and it's taking place. If we don't have people, I went to school in Hong Kong. I know what our competition is. If we don't have people going into manufacturing, which is it's not like old ugly. I mean, that's part of the problem we have. Is we're also going to be doing an image and attraction campaign of manufacturing, because all of us probably still have that very archaic Dixonian version of manufacturing. I know I've shared it with you before. My uncle, that hand, because he had a cigar. He must like give me a hug at Christmas. Believe me, I don't. My version of manufacturing was very archaic too. Go through Umbria or go through some of these. I guarantee you it's cleaner than my kitchen, and maybe that's something to say about my house cleaning, but we need to show there's a new manufacturing, and it's wonderful, and it's what we need to do for our country. Next slide. We have other talent challenges. I talked about the image and attraction campaign. CP is a 10-week program tied to developing the workforce. Talent attraction. Think of two sides of coin for talent. Number one, you have the production side, the people working, that's CPT. The other way is, when I talk to Northrop Grumman, and they have to, here's what they're telling me. There's 32 people graduating from MIT, 2 or 4 nationals. I want to get all 30 of them. Okay? Now, why and they don't want to come here. They don't want to come here because, A, it's not, Austin and stuff like that. So one of the things we want to do is we want to help sell Brevard County as a place to come. Because I think when they come here and they get married, it's a wonderful place to be. I was told this, I'm talking out of school, somebody, I won't say who, but from a manufacturer, was courting the very high end. Because remember, they're competing. These kids in engineering degrees, especially in the high-end schools, are being sought after, and they're being thrown money at them, and they can take the decision. They have that luxury to be able to do this. And it was told, I was going down US 1, and the only place I found to take him for a drink was, I'm not being disrespectful, but this was Lou's Blues. And I go, well, at least it wasn't Dragon Lady. It could be worse. I love Dragon Lady. I'm sure it was a wonderful place to go to. He didn't think that was funny, and I feel like, I better get a program going. So part of that is selling this. Even I see you have Eric Garvey coming next time. Great guy. I'm telling you, he is a wonderful asset to our community. And we sat down with one thing about ABCs, we never have money, and that's okay. And I said, look, we're going to start attracting professionals, maybe young professionals, but on the other side of production lane coming in, engineers. What are you doing to attract younger, more fluent people coming to visit here? Because that would help us tell our story, wouldn't it? Now, he could have said 2 things. He could have said, no, we're still going to do what we've done in Ambassador. He immediately knew what we're talking about. He got some Google algorithm thing he's buying and stuff like that. So what a wonderful asset. Again, wanting to work together. We work in partnership with organizations. We're only as good as the partner we work with. And if our partner doesn't want to work with us, it's unfortunate, and I will try to go out of our way to work with our partners. Next, I'm gonna read you something before I go, and then if you allow me for a minute, I do want to preach, because I do feel, normally I would never go into this depth, but I feel very kindred feeling with this group. You get it, you're serious about business. But let me read this. This is by Jim Clifton. It's called the book, The Coming Job Wars. Some of you have heard it. Maybe you've probably seen it before. Very small book. It's easy to read. This is just from the flip page. And think about what's happening here 2 ways. The war on economic development. There is a war on economic development, number 1. And number 2, what we've been able to do despite that war. Leaders of countries and cities, Clifton says, the author of the book, should focus on creating good jobs, because as jobs go, so does the fate of nations. Jobs bring prosperity, peace, and human development. But long-term unemployment ruins lives, cities, and countries. Creating good jobs is tough, and many leaders are doing many things wrong. They're undercutting entrepreneurs instead of cultivating them. They're running companies with depressed workforces. They're letting the next generation of job creators rot in bad schools. A global jobs war is coming, and there's no time to waste. Cities are crumbling for lack of good jobs. Nations are in revolt because their people can't get good jobs. The cities and counties that act first, that focus everything they have on creating good jobs, are the ones that will win. I believe that in all my heart. You can talk about quality of life all you want. You can talk about what we have, but if you don't have a good, meaningful job, that doesn't mean anything. And always watch the economies. You look at these countries when they have war and stuff, and all of a sudden maybe they magically stop, and all of a sudden they start talking about regional economies, because they realize until we have jobs, we can't talk about regional economies. We can't have prosperity. So I want to tell you, watch what's going on. You need to see it. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one fighting out there. I know I'm not, but I am the focus, the target. And I got pretty thick skin. I mean, that's my job. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the hired gun. And it's when you guys go out there and start pushing back. But if not, I'd hate to see a couple people bring the good thing that we have going on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can talk to Andy Ziegler. Any questions that I could answer for you? I went over, I'm sorry I went over 5 minutes of the extra time you gave me. I said everything there is to say, even quoted a book. You always end with a quote in a book, it sounds like you're smart. All right. Thank you.